Over the years, we have been able to get answers to most of our questions about the planet we live on, courtesy of the many archaeological discoveries we've had. But archaeology hasn't always been straight, as some of the discoveries have raised a lot of controversies concerning their reality and how they were discovered. Join us as we explore some of the most controversial archaeological discoveries and the reason these discoveries got people talking. Number 15. Infant Buddha. Back in 2018, two filmmakers, Léon Deschamps and Shane Thompson, were planning a documentary about the French exploration of Australia. The two started by using metal detectors on Shark Bay, which is a World Heritage Site in remote Western Australia, when they detected a rare Ming Dynasty Buddha. As soon as this discovery was made, it caused a lot of controversies. Many believed it was an elaborate hoax, while some questioned how a Ming statue got to Australia. It is not just any Buddha statue, but a small statue that looks like a baby Buddha. It took experts time to figure out if the statue was real or fake, and finally they verified the honesty of the finders. But the verification didn't solve everything. It only led to another question, which is, how did the statue get there? According to experts, the 15 centimeters tall and 1 kilogram bronze Buddha was made in China hundreds of years ago. They also believe that the statue is capable of rewriting history. This is based on their claim that the statue was most probably left behind by Ming Dynasty explorers who visited Australia hundreds of years ago. It is believed that the Buddha was used from the Ming period, between 1368 AD to 1644 AD, and that it was buried about 150 years before it was detected by the filmmakers. But even with all that has been confirmed about the statue, there are skeptics. One thing is sure: hundreds of ships sailed the Southeast Asia seas on at least 7 expeditions hunting for the coast of Africa. However, until now, no evidence has ever suggested that they reached the coast of Australia hundreds of years before the first European explorers in the 1600s. Some experts believe that the fact that the Buddha is 500 years old does not mean it got to Australia 500 years ago. In addition, they think it is unlikely that the Chinese treasure fleet ever visited the Gascoyne area of Western Australia. Another skeptic said the statue was most likely dropped by the Chinese pearlers or fishermen in the 1870s as a hoax. It seems digging into the site is the only thing that can reveal the true origin of the Buddha. Number 14. Pharaohs Medallion. This discovery is about Pharaoh Akhenaten. Of all the pharaohs that have ever lived, Pharaoh Akhenaten is probably one of the most recognized ancient rulers. And as famous as he is also a controversial ruler. For the sake of those who don't know about him, he is the father of Tutankhamun and husband to the heretic Queen Nefertiti. Before we talk about Pharaoh Akhenaten's medallion, let's discuss a little about why he is controversial himself. It is all about his looks. Akhenaten had one strange figure that looked like a woman's. He had extremely pronounced feminine hips in a traditionally all-male masculine position. You must agree that was not a norm. And as if that was not enough, he had an elongated skull and a pronounced chin and nose. Looking at his image right now, it looks like one from another planet entirely, right? But that's not even why we are here. The most controversial thing he owned apart from his body is his medallion. The medallion depicts an actual craft or a flying saucer-type disc that looks like a flying vehicle. There's also a head of what looks like an alien gray at the top of the medallion. Oh, you already know that it can't but be controversial. Some believe that this ancient medallion is proof extraterrestrials were ruling over ancient Egypt. But are Egyptians aware of these extraterrestrial beings? We never can tell because even the medallion only exists in photos. Number 13. Animal evolution. Apart from wondering how the first man came into existence, have you ever wondered how animals evolved? Life has existed for much of Earth's 4.5 billion year history, but for most of that time it consisted exclusively of bacteria. Information about evolutionary events hundreds of millions of years ago is mainly gleaned from fossils. Familiar fossils are shells, exoskeletons, and bones that organisms make while alive, and these hard parts were discovered over 500 million years ago. However, the sudden appearance of animals with hard parts shows that there was a preceding interval during which early soft-bodied animals with no hard parts evolved from simpler animals. Unfortunately, it is very difficult to understand the timing and nature of evolutionary events due to the lack of evidence of fossils. However, it is widely accepted that sponges are the most basic animal in the animal evolutionary tree, and therefore probably were the first to appear. Oh, you thought sponges are no animals? They are. They use oxygen and feed by sucking water containing organic matter through their bodies. Therefore, based on this assumption, sponges may have existed as much as 100 million years ago. It's just that we haven't found fossil evidence of sponges in rocks from those hundreds of millions of years, and here's why. Sponges do not have hard parts like shells or bones. And because of that, when a scientist found evidence of sponges on ancient rocks, he was not sure, but if they really proved that sponges existed those years, then we can agree that animals existed long before they were discovered. Number 12. The Gate of the Gods. In 1996, a local tour guide, Jose Luis Delgado Mamani, stumbled upon a strange structure near Lake Titicaca, the largest freshwater lake in South America. It is an uncommon type of door structure named Aramumuru, or the Gate of the Gods. Ever since its discovery, it has been surrounded by controversies regarding its construction and use. For over 4,000 years, the surrounding area of the mountains and Lake Titicaca was home to several ancient indigenous communities, including the Inca civilization ruled by Pachacuti Inca Yupanqui. The Inca believed that the Titicaca Lake was where the world began and where the spirit would go after death. It is also believed that the site of Aramumuru served as a pilgrimage and worship ground for the Inca, with stories that say the doorway has supernatural powers. The structure is 7 meters high and 7 meters wide, with a smaller door-shaped indentation in the center. Little is known of the door's origin, but it is believed to predate the Inca, with culturally significant tales of its uses coming from several Native American communities. There's a mythology that commonly points to the doorway being a portal used to travel to other worlds. Some also believe the door is used by the gods as a way for them to visit and inspect their kingdoms. It is also said by those who visited Aramumuru that they felt at peace when they tested their foreheads on the door. Despite being widely thought to predate the Inca, Aramumuru gets its name from an Inca legend. It's said that while evading the Spanish, an Inca priest named Aramumuru took a golden solar disk known as the Key of the Gods of Seven Rays that was kept in the Coricancha temple in Cusco. He took it over 450 kilometers from the temple to the stone doorway and placed the disk on the door. Acting as a portal, the doorway allegedly opened, and the priest passed through it and disappeared. Inca was eventually invaded by the Spanish and lost all of their natural resources, leaving Inca with smallpox, which contributed to the fall of the empire in 1592. Number 11. Tomb of Jesus. Even if you're not a Christian, you have probably heard about Jesus' death and his resurrection. The earliest accounts of Jesus' burial come from the canonical Gospels, the first 4 books of the New Testament, which are believed to have been composed decades after Christ's crucifixion, around AD 30. While there are variations in the details, according to the 4 books, the accounts all described how Jesus was buried in a rock-cut tomb that belonged to Joseph of Arimathea, a wealthy Jewish follower of Jesus. Archaeologists have discovered over 1,000 such rock-cut tombs in places around Jerusalem. Each one of these family tombs consisted of 1 or more burial chambers with long niches cut into the sides of the rock to accommodate individual bodies. And of all the discoveries was the site of the Holy Sepulchre Church, a site that was said to be the original tomb of Jesus. It is said that the church was built on the tomb to preserve it from being wiped out of extinction in the later years. However, the Holy Book specifies that Jesus was buried outside of Jerusalem, near Golgotha, the site of his crucifixion, and also the Jewish tradition forbade burial within the walls of the city. A few years after the burial is said to have occurred, the walls of Jerusalem were expanded, putting Golgotha and the nearby tomb within the city. These theories are what make it very difficult to agree on the original burial site of Jesus Christ. However, archaeologists in Jerusalem say they have no reason to reject the authenticity of the site. Number 10. The Antikythera Mechanism. In 1900, a group of Greek divers from the eastern Mediterranean island of Symi were out searching for natural sponges when their course was disturbed by a violent storm. They had to take shelter from the storm near the island of Antikythera, between Crete and mainland Greece. When the storm subsided, they dived for sponges and stumbled upon a shipwreck full of Greek treasures. That was the most significant wreck from the ancient world to have been found up to that point. So many treasures were recovered, but a particular treasure got the experts talking. It was a lump, the size of a large dictionary that would later be called the Antikythera Mechanism. At first, it wasn't noticed because of other exciting finds. However, after some months, the lump broke apart, revealing bronze precision gear wheels the size of coins. At the time of the shipwreck, gears like these shouldn't have been in use. Not in Greece, not anywhere in the world. This was what generated huge controversy. This discovery single-handedly rewrites our knowledge of the technology of the ancient Greeks. The Greeks are famous for amazing inventions and technology even when other parts of the world were far behind. But before the discovery of the Antikythera mechanism, ancient Greek gears were thought to be restricted to crude wheels in windmills and watermills. The first precision-geared mechanism known is quite simple, however impressive. Also, there was a calendar of Byzantine origin dating to about CE 600. It was not until the 14th century that scientists created the first sophisticated astronomical clocks. The Antikythera mechanism, with its precision gears bearing teeth about a millimeter long, is completely unlike anything else from the ancient world. But if the mechanism really existed at the time of the shipwreck, then why didn't we have any like it in a very long time? According to the experts, the Antikythera mechanism was made of bronze, which is a very valuable metal, and at the time, if anything like that stopped working, it would have been melted down to make another. Most likely, if this shipwreck didn't happen, the mechanism would have been melted and we won't be able to know about it. To know more about this, shipwrecks may be the best prospects. Number 9. Tartaria Tablets. The Tartaria Tablets are 3 tablets discovered by archaeologist Nicolae Viasa in 1961 at a Neolithic site in the village of Tartaria in Romania. The 3 tablets are 2.5 inches each and have symbols inscribed on one face. 2 of the tablets are rectangular while the third is round. One of the rectangular tablets has an unclear figure, a branch of a tree, and a horned animal which archaeologists interpreted as a hunting scene. The other 2 tablets have different abstract symbols. On the tablets are Vinca symbols of the Neolithic Turdas Vinca culture, dating back to 2700 BC. Ever since these tablets were found, they have generated controversies. Some archaeologists claim that the Vinca symbols are the earliest form of writing, and believe that the tablets originated as far back as 5500 BC during the Sumerian civilization. Since Nicolae Viasa discovered the tablets, there have been various interpretations of the symbols written on them. While some scholars believe that the tablets are from the Danube civilization, others think that the symbols are highly standardized and have a rectilinear shape comparable to the one which was manifested by archaic writing systems. Although there are many theories, we still can't hold on to what type of writing is on the tablets and what they mean. However, Wikipedia says if the symbols are truly a type of writing, then the writing in Danubian culture would far predate the earliest Sumerian cuneiform script or the Egyptian hieroglyphs. For now, no one knows the meaning of these tablets. Number 8. Footprints on Crete. On the rock of the largest and the most populous of Greek islands, Crete, was found 50 footprints by Professor Gerard D. Gierlinski in 2002. Experts used refined dating techniques to get the time they were printed on the rock, but their research only brought about controversies as the results altered the prevailing understanding of human evolution. Some of the authors of the research report showed that these footprints were 5.7 million years old, which means they are from the Miocene period. However, the earlier and current study argues that there is other evidence for human wanderings in Africa and Eurasia. This new study rejected the old report when other scientists claimed that the footprints are not even of humans. Actually, the footprints do not look totally like humans, but that can be a result of how long they have been there. However, the newly emerging evidence of the second study in Nature pushes back the earlier claim by another 300,000 years and has redoubled its efforts to insist on morphological human likeness. According to Charles Darwin's theory from his work, The Descent of Man, which was published in 1871, he argued that the origin of the early dispersal of modern humans was from the continent of Africa. At the time, it was based on speculation until proven by a recent study. And now that these footprints are found in Europe, you can't be sure of what to believe anymore. And about those footprints, no one knows for sure if they are for animals or early humans. Number 7, Bust of Nefertiti. Yeah, we already talked about the controversial pharaoh Akhenaten. It's time to talk about his wife, Queen Nefertiti. Not the queen herself, but her bust. And by her bust, I mean a sculpture of her head, shoulders, and chest. You see, Nefertiti's bust is described as the most famous face from antiquity, which is only rivaled by Tutankhamun's death mask. On December 6, 1912, a group of archaeologists were excavating Amarna and stumbled upon the ancient sculptor named Thutmose's workshop. There, they unearthed a limestone bust of Nefertiti. Although there are no identifying inscriptions on the bust, the crown on the bust is the one known to be worn by Nefertiti. Queen Nefertiti is famous for her beauty and being, but all of that has not been without controversy. Since the time of the bust's discovery, it didn't receive any specific identification and never appeared publicly until 12 years after in 1924. This has led people to suggest that the bust is a modern forgery. However, tests using CT scans have been conducted on the bust, and the result shows that the sculpture has a limestone core rendered by a gypsum stucco layer. The scan also revealed that the inner face was carved, showing bags under the eyes, creases around the mouth and cheeks, and a swelling on the nose. The painted layer takes off the natural aging signs, making the image more perfect. Whether the bust is real or not, it is currently on display in the Neues Museum on Museumsinsel in Berlin. And in fact, seeing Nefertiti's bust is on top of many people's bucket lists. So when you go to Berlin, do visit Nefertiti at the museum. Maybe you can tell if it's real or not just by looking at it. Number 6, the Lost Chamber in Pyramid. Since the discovery of the pyramid, no one knows how it got there or why it's there, causing arguments between experts. As if the pyramid was not controversial enough, Egyptologists have announced the discovery of a secret chamber located right above the main entrance to the Great Pyramid of Egypt. And now everyone that knows about this discovery is still wondering why the chamber was created. The chamber measures 30 meters, equivalent to 98.43 feet. Even before the discovery of this chamber, scientists have wondered why the Great Pyramid was constructed. About 150 years after the establishment of Egyptology as an academic field, there still appears to be no agreement between scholars on the function of the Great Pyramid of Giza. However, there are other competing theories about the structure. Some believe that it is heaven's mirror. Some call it the storehouse, while some say it's the powerhouse, water pump, or the Orion Belt, among others. But generally, mainstream archaeologists agree that it was built to be the tomb of the 4th dynasty pharaoh, Khufu, who ruled in the early 26th century BC. If that is the case, it means the recently identified enclosed space is probably around 4,500 years old. But even if all of that is true, we still do not know why the pyramid was built. Now, it's time for today's subscriber's pick. This first image looks so much like a young alien with an adult human. As much as you would want to say that the child is bald, the facial features absolutely look different from ours, except if you have seen a human that looks like this. If you agree that the younger figure is not human, do you think that humans and aliens once coexisted? Also, what do you think about the second image that looks like a female hand holding a modern handbag? Let us know in the comments section. Number 5. Skull 5. The Skull 5 is the 5th skull of 5 skulls discovered to be of the earliest humans. The researchers focused on Skull 5 because it was the one that gave them the complete structure they needed to carry out their research. The researchers first found the complete lower jaw of a fossil human in 2000. 5 years later, they saw the cranium at the fossil-rich Dmanisi site 96 miles southwest of Tbilisi. After the cranium was discovered, it took researchers years to analyze it. Paleoanthropologists referred to Skull 5 as a mosaic, or a mixture of features seen in earlier and later humans. The skull's face, large teeth, and small brain size resemble those of earlier fossil humans, but the detailed anatomy of its brain case, which gives clues to the wiring of the brain, is similar to that of a more recent early human species called Homo erectus. This combination of features is why there has been a long-running discussion over whether the Dmanisi humans were an early form of Homo erectus, a distinct species called Homo georgicus, or something else. While some paleontologists agree with what is on the paper, some have failed to accept it. Probably when the experts finally agree on something, we'll come back to this. Number 4, James Ossuary. For those who don't know, ossuary is a container or room in which the bones of dead people are placed. The Biblical Archaeology Review first reported on James, the brother of Jesus, ossuary in 2002. And ever since, questions concerning its authenticity continue to plague the world-famous relic. The James Ossuary, as it's come to be known, is a limestone bone box that bears an Aramaic inscription reading, "James, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus." The saga of the James Ossuary had been going on for years, but it reached the climax in 2012 with the Israeli antiquity collector Oded Golan charged for forgery. The trial went on for 7 years, and eventually Oded Golan was acquitted, but that was not the end. There is still the question of, is the brother of Jesus' inscription also a forgery? The ossuary was no longer questioned as it was confirmed to have existed between the 1st century BCE and 70 CE, a period when the practice of ossologium, which means the collection of the bones of a deceased person, was prevalent among the Jewish population. But the inscription on the ossuary has invited years of debate. If it is found to be real, the inscription would be the earliest written reference to Jesus. But because the ownership of the ossuary cannot be traced, there's no way to verify the authenticity of the inscription, which leaves us to stand wherever we want. What do you believe? Number 3, the Mayan Calendar. The ancient Mayan culture offered different calendar types, but of all, the 819-day calendar discovered in glyphic text is the one that baffled the scholars the most. Researchers have long believed this calendar was associated with planetary movements. However, each planet moves quite differently, and matching up multiple planets into an 819-day span didn't seem to make sense. This calendar has caused controversies for decades, but according to new research, the calendar matches up to planetary cycles over 40 years. This broadened the view of scientists and helped them to explain the calendar. That means the Mayans took a 45-year view of planetary alignment and coded it into a calendar that has left modern scholars scratching their heads in wonder. Number 2, horses and men. According to a new report published in 2009, the earliest known domesticated horses were both ridden and milked, which is something very different from what we knew. The findings by an international team of archaeologists could point to the very beginnings of horse domestication and help explain its early impacts on society. Archaeologists excavated sites in Kazakhstan from 1994 to 2002, and they discovered that horse domestication may have begun in Kazakhstan about 5,500 years ago, which is about 1,000 years earlier than originally thought. Their findings also put horse domestication in Kazakhstan about 2,000 years earlier than that known to have existed in Europe. The research team used various techniques to discover that horses provided food and milk, to show that domestic horses differed from wild horses from the same region, and to prove that horses were harnessed and possibly ridden in the 4th millennium BC in Kazakhstan. According to research carried out by using a novel method of analyzing residue from fat-soluble lipids found on ancient bowtie pottery, it was discovered that humans consumed horse milk at the beginning of the Copper Age, some 5,500 years ago. In addition, examinations of ancient bone remains showed that horses were similar in shape to Bronze Age domestic horses, but different from more ancient wild horses from the same region. This shows that people selected wild horses because of their physical attributes. Who would have thought that horse's milk was a big deal at the time? Number 1, Decalogue Stone. The Los Lunas Decalogue Stone was discovered by the archaeologist Frank Hibben in the 1880s. It was found southwest of Albuquerque, New Mexico. In 1985, George Morehouse, a mineralogist and a member of the Epigraphic Society, examined the stone and said it was 500 to 2,000 years old. He estimated the age based on how much the rock had been weathered by wind-blown sand. The stone has an inscription on it, and everything about it has generated controversies. The Decalogue Stone is said to contain the 10 Commandments as described in the Bible, hence the name, Decalogue. The 10 Commandments were written in Paleo-Hebrew script. Paleo-Hebrew is an early form of the Hebrew alphabet and is similar to the Phoenician alphabet. Some people say the stone predates Christopher Columbus's voyage to Hispaniola by as much as 1,500 years. Over the years, several language and religious scholars have examined the script to determine the type of language written on it and to know its meaning. The text has some interesting characteristics. For example, although it is an early form of Hebrew, it also shows Hellenistic influence. In some areas, Greek letters are substituted for Hebrew letters. There are symbols included in the text which were not used in Hebrew until the Middle Ages, which presents a problem in dating it before that time. Amidst all of that are the critics of the text's authenticity. They take issue with the presence of orthographic errors. For example, the author used the Hebrew letter Aleph, which is like the A in the English alphabet. The author then treated Aleph as a vowel, when in ancient Hebrew it was a consonant. Mistakes with other letters were also discovered, such as treating two letters representing distinct sounds as if they were the same sound. And because of these things, the stone is not generally accepted to be real. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.